I'm a writer-director. I've made one feature film called Mr. Sadman.
I always liked the idea of making movies and telling stories, so I decided to apply to film schools. But I missed all the deadlines except for one, San Francisco State, so I applied and they took me. So I went.
So why'd you go to film school?
Because they took me.
That was really nice of them.
Hey, I'm Patrick Epino. I'm a writer, director, new media guy. I'm from San Francisco, California. I was born and then raised in the Bay Area, and my folks are from like Quezon City and stuff like that. I always just like the idea of telling stories and stuff, and like movies were the things that always kind of got you going, and you wanted to, you always had like ideas and thoughts and opinions and questions that you wanted answered, and without having any answers, you just kind of want to throw them out there. So I was studying art. I thought I was going to do that, and then I actually thought of studying film, but the University of Chicago didn't have a production program, and so I was like, oh, okay, I'll go to Columbia College and kind of do this interdisciplinary, like dual campus thing, but I was kind of too much of a slacker to get that done. Nice. And so it didn't happen. And so I ended up studying sociology.
Yeah.
And which was cool, like I think Chicago, the USC, they started that whole kind of discipline, so it was really like old schooly and kind of interesting, and that actually informed a lot of the way I kind of look at film and storytelling. Like everybody comes up with ideas in different ways. I think that I kind of look at certain social situations and build out from there. Yeah. Like kind of like social critique in a way. Maybe a lot of times it's like satirical, and I see issues, I see things, and I have questions, and I like to ask those questions and not necessarily have the answers to them, but just kind of put them out there and stuff. There was this movement from being like this major slacker in college to kind of having some kind of drive and motivation in my MFA program. But like I made a few short films. One called Spunk, which is kind of a satire of these like identity type films. I'd seen a lot of like these kind of documentaries that are about being like the odd man out, and I decided it was just a short little thing to play with that idea and kind of like tongue-in-cheekishly like poke fun at it. And then I made a short film called Void, which was kind of this kind of like just critique of the self-help movement, or this like the way that people try to fill their lives with stuff and things, and it's about a guy who is walking around, or he's trying to find a little bit of happiness, and he doesn't know how to do it, so he listens to like a self-help audio book or something, and he decides that the way to fill it up is to fill it up with stuff and color and things, and just a lot of like purchasing and consumerist type stuff, and then like the whole idea is that that's kind of the way it's this alienation, the way a lot of people I think are in the world today. I made a feature film called Mr. Sadman, which was about a 1990 Saddam Hussein double who loses his job and moves to Los Angeles to start his life over. And that actually takes a lot of the similar themes from Void about the question that I'm asking in that film is, the thing that really matters the most to you, like what really defines you. And for this guy, it was being a Saddam Hussein double. When that is taken away, and what are you kind of left to hold on to? And he just, in today's world, he just kind of goes through these different iterations, trying to find like a sense of meaning and a sense of like belonging and a sense of place. You know, it becomes like this farce, this satire about the world that I kind of see, the world that I kind of know. And in a lot of ways, like a lot of these things are, you know, everybody writes stories that are about like their own experiences, and then as you kind of write more and more, it becomes a little bit more like universal. But for me, like Mr. Sadman is kind of like, you know, the way that it's what I've seen in folks and what I've kind of lived through in a weird way, taken to a very like taken to a huge extreme. Met Steve. I've only known Steve for about a year and a half. We met at the Asian American Film Festival in LA, like in 2010. I met Steve, and we had like obviously the same, like similar interests. We're both filmmakers, and we're both Filipino. Although I always like doubt that he really is. Maybe like in early summer, we met up, and I had this one idea, and then he had an idea, and they were like, "Hey, let's just combine this idea," you know. And then we just kind of figured something out, you know, took what we knew, and created the National Film Society, which, you know, is like so technically, you know, we have a YouTube channel, but we're also like working on other things and just trying to build out, you know, like this, you know, this production company, and create new work and work with other people and just really try out some new ideas that we have, and then you know, show friends work, show work that we like, and you know, in the end, just try to make good stuff. I like change personally, and I like things getting like shaken up. I think like the whole idea of like conflict, obviously, with like the traditional film and like new film and new media and stuff like that. I think all that stuff is really exciting. I think it's a fun time to kind of be around, because we all kind of, you know, like at a certain chunk of people, like all kind of grew up with the same like filmmaker, like a mythology that you make a film and then blah blah blah, and it gets screened, and you know, you get to make a bunch of other movies, and that barely existed before, and now it really doesn't exist. But there's just a lot of ways to kind of create good stuff. These kids that are growing up with YouTube already, as a thing that existed when they were like socializing into the media world, it's like one of their main things, you know. So absolutely, I think it's a lot of, you know, democracy in it. You know what's out there, and then like just kind of get a grasp of all the tools. There's so many things and so many ways you can do things, and I think like younger folks have a better grasp of that than people who came up like 10, 20 years ago in terms of film, because I think what I've run into is that a lot of filmmakers are not only hesitant, but they're just somewhat like kind of detached from technology, and some of them like embrace that defiantly, which is fine, but like sometimes that you know, if you don't have like all these other people pushing stuff for you, then it can be a negative. So I think, you know, being aware and of all the tools at your disposal, anything from production to post to distribution, and you know, like, you know, we all live in screens, you know what I mean, of different sizes, and just know how to use those as to your advantage, you know, as tools. So, and there's always like, you know, and there's always somebody to listen to. You know, there's a ton of stories to tell out there, you know, and just know the ones that have been told, and tell new ones or tell the old ones better. I worked. Free time, so I didn't do anything. Well, Steve and I shot a couple of videos, and then When I was in LA, I went to a couple events, and you know, to be honest, it's like if I, you know, with limited time right now, the only thing I can do is just be like a conduit to like kind of see something and like tell other people about it, you know, and just try to like spread words of spread the word of things that are going on, whether it's my friends or somebody else doing something. I think just because they do stuff and you know that is informative, cultural, and all around like just kind of gets into the vibe of like you know knowing history, knowing like you know kind of just like reflecting on things. I think for me, it's just I work like 14 hours a day, so there wasn't really much I could do except kick it with my folks when I'm in when I'm up in the Bay Area. So,
Cool.
What did you do? Like growing up on the West Coast, like it's super. I mean, going to Chicago when I was 18 was like it was kind of culture shock. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Especially University of Chicago. That school holds a very, very special place in my heart. But it was, you know, it's known for being kind of quirky and odd. At least I think it is. And it was just kind of different being out in the Midwest. And I think like growing up in the Bay Area, it was like, you know, it was a lot more fluid, you know. And in Chicago, like, it was just a little bit more, I mean, it's, you know, racially stratified, if you'll say, you know. Mm. And, you know, it was just kind of, it was different. It took a little while to get used to. But then, you know, like anything, it's just like, you know, you roll with it. And I love Chicago, you know. For better or for worse, like the Filipino culture is very copycatish. It's very, you know, remnants of being like occupied and colonized and stuff. And, you know, it's just like this kind of, this mix up of like different islands and whatever. So, you know, there's so much breadth, so much depth to that culture that like, that it kind of extends to everything else that we do. So it's not like one particular kind of thing. You know what I mean? It's like there's, and I think there's so much like blending and so much like flexibility in that storytelling that you know people need to graduate past all the old stuff. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I think it's true for you know Asian American film in general, you know, and I do think like new media stuff, like you know little videos and kind of like offline stuff, it creates the space for to kind of fill in those gaps, you know, of representation and just you know like you know filling out the narrative because I mean. Anything with pork. If I see a lechon, that's all mine. I'm housing that thing. Yeah. And sinigang. Those are probably my favorites. Lumpia, Shanghai style. Yeah, just working on the National Film Society, which is fun, and we're looking to like you know, kind of slowly but surely kind of do different stuff and grow a little bit and just work with other folks down the road. I'm hoping next year I get to shoot another feature and you know I'll keep my fingers crossed and sending out my first feature, Mr. Sadman, to the distributor. You know, you can check us out on the YouTube channel, youtube.com/National Film Society, and you can check me out at patrickepino.com or you know follow me on Twitter, which is just Patrick Epino. So.